Hey everybody, my name is Eric Vranish. I'm a physical therapist and I enjoy running a lot and I enjoy serving the running community. So, still too bright. Anyway, so I wanted to hop on here and talk about something that isn't really commonly talked about but is real super painful still, and that's on the ball of your big toe. You have two really small sesamoid bones there called sesamoid bones, and they look, they're kind of like small patellas, really super tiny patellas, right around the ball of your big toe, and it's really just to help for weight bearing, and they can be really painful, and it makes it so that you end up having to walk on the outside of your foot, which can cause other problems. And if you develop a habit of doing that, then sometimes you can develop a stress fracture on the outside of your foot, on your pinky toe on the outside. So it can cause some issues if you try to get around it and make it feel better without really doing the right things for it. So anyway, most of the time, sesamoiditis problem ends up being because of just way too much pressure on those poor bones. Imagine someone with a pretty high arch or an arch that really doesn't move a whole lot, and with people that have sometimes some pretty significant calluses on the bottom of their big toe, or the ball of the big toe, end up having a ton of pain there because by design, we're supposed to, as we walk, we're supposed to toe off on our big toe. That's just how we're designed. But when there's not a whole lot of shock absorption, or when there's a ton of time spent in things like high-heeled shoes, or shoes that are pretty firm and not very forgiving in the surfaces that we're on. Like, say, people that work in a warehouse and have maybe some pretty thin shoes, or shoes that don't really allow for any shock absorption. There just sometimes tends to be a little bit too much pain, a little bit too much pressure on those sesamoid bones. And so they can become like really bad pain points. And the best thing to go about this really is to get one of those, or to start, is to get one of those pads. Let's see if I can pull it up here. It happens to dancers a lot, and it happens to dancers a lot. In fact, some of these pads are for dancers, but it's for other people as well. Let's see if we can find a pad that is pretty good. And really what you just have to do is just unload your sesamoid bones, those small bones. And I'll just I'm gonna flip this sucker around here before we zoom in on me too much. And yeah, there you go. That's what they look like. And they actually are designed for dancers, really. But that cutout goes at the bottom of your big toe, and that thickening right there is to be on just behind the ball of your foot for your big toe, because that's what's going to unload those small bones, getting it something a little bit thicker right behind the ball of your big toe, and the ball of your foot in general, the first, second, third, maybe first 3 or 4 toes there. Anyway, you simply just need to unload that thing, or both of them. There's 2 small ones that really help with weight bearing. Yeah, you got to unload those things. You got to get out of the shoes that are hard, you got to get, maybe if you're, maybe if for ladies, if your wedge shoe is pretty hard, sometimes that's not the best thing. You simply need to unload these things because you end up putting too much pressure on the ball of your big toe. And it happens often in, since we started getting more turf in. Another thing about turf, you've heard of turf toe. This isn't a turf toe problem. This is more like it's similar. Turf toe is the joint gets irritated because it's forced into hyperextension all the time. In this particular case, just happens to be just a weight-bearing problem on a hard surface, like say soccer players on turf. Very thin shoes, very thin soles on a very hard surface and run around a lot. That tends to be an issue with sesamoiditis or these sesamoid bones. You really just need to get off of this poor thing. And it's better not to put more weight on the outside of your foot. If you put more weight on the outside of your foot, you're going to cause more issues. You need to get that something similar that I just showed you, just like a felt kind of a cutout that is going to be unloading those poor bones. And if you're a runner, you just can't do it right now. You gotta get on the bike or something different, recumbent bike or something, and get off the ball of your foot a little bit more. Probably maybe flats. Maybe you're on flats too much. Maybe you like the thin shoes and your foot's gotten away with running around on some pretty thin shoes, like maybe your racing shoes. Maybe you enjoy running around in your racing shoes, racing flats. It's just not. Yeah, Kayla. It can be a big issue. I had it when I was a kid, but this is just the opposite now. It has to do with my foot is just the opposite. It pronates too much. And so when I was a kid and I'd be a sprinter, not only would I be on my toes, but I'd be on my toes on the inside a lot more. And so that ended up causing a ton of pain on the ball of my big toe. It was a big issue, and I had to stop. I had to run on the grass. That's all I could do. This poor thing, you just got to get off of it. You got to let it heal. And your body's fantastic at what it needs to do as far as healing goes. If you just simply give it time, most of us runners, we won't stop, and so we tend to get around it and maybe not make it feel as bad, but then it just simply becomes a chronic condition. So you just be careful of this thing. Not all of us have it, but you just you gotta be careful of it because it'll be a chronic condition pretty fast. And those small bones can get chronically painful for quite some time, and then the only way you end up avoiding it is by walking on the outside of your foot. You end up getting a stress fracture on the outside of your foot, on the base of your fifth metatarsal, or the bone that leads into your pinky bone in your foot. It can end up being kind of a big issue. So just take care of it, unload it, get like a felt pad of some sort, specifically designed for the sesamoid bones, a little cutout, and then it unweights that area because it's a little bit thicker around the outside of the area, so that the ball of your foot can take the brunt of your weight of your body and your sesamoid bones, and to a point your big toe is obviously going to be unloaded a little bit as well, which is it's just what you need to do. You need to get into make sure your shoes are updated, right? You gotta make sure that you spend some good money on a good pair of shoes. And if you have if you have a fairly higher arch, then you need to get into probably a shoe that has a whole lot more shock absorption, which is a neutral shoe generally. Neutral essentially means just nothing but just soft. It just needs some softening because your foot doesn't do a good job at absorbing shock. For the pronator, see that with the pronator, like me, it was kind of a dual issue because not only was I spending more time on the inside of my foot, but my plantar fascia and my big toe was extending a little bit more. And so the plantar fascia kind of connects into this connective tissue matrix of what your sesamoid bones kind of connect to. So if that stuff's on stretch and you're loading it, it's not the right shoe. You got to make sure you have the right shoe. Just get in a good pair of shoes. Quit running in the old shoes or quit walking around the old flip-flops or whatever. You got to give this thing a rest. Anyway, just hoping to go through some of this valuable stuff with you. This might not be everyone's thing, but it tends to, at least be around for a little bit of time for a number of people. But anyway, it was a short one tonight. Hope it helps. And I plan on doing a live stream, kind of like a webinar for hip and hamstring pain or hip and hamstring tightness that just tends to not go away. I put a poll out there. It seems like that's a lot of what's going on. So in about 2 weeks or 2 weekends, we'll pick maybe a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, whatever works for anybody. I'm still trying to feel that out and see what's working for all you guys. I'd like you guys to be. There's probably going to be a Friday night or maybe Saturday late morning. However that works out for you guys. If that doesn't work out for you, let me know, and we'll try to push it around and make it so that it's convenient for people to show up, because it's important. It tends to be, it was by far probably, it doubled just about everything else that everyone's dealing with, like your hip, like in the back inside of your hip, and your hamstring, high hamstring, the whole bit. Anyway, so we're going to do that, and I'll put a post out on that, and hopefully you guys can join me. And if not, hopefully you don't have any pain there, because it'll be helpful. So anyways, God bless you guys. And I got a group, Running Motivation and Training League, if you guys want any more content about just to keep yourself safe and healthy, and some nutrition from some fantastic people, Kayla, anyways, about injury prevention and treatment stuff. It's the easiest way, I think, to get content out there for you guys that run and want to keep running and get to the pain point and treat yourself. At least give you guys some really good, helpful tips on treating yourself, getting ahead of it, because the Western medicine just tends not to do a very good job of doing that stuff. So anyway, hope this helps. Shout out to me if you want to chat about anything and running related. It's my wheelhouse for injury prevention, and I'd like to help you guys. So take care, healthy running, and we'll talk soon. Good night.